the Tigers have been dealing with some injuries now, and I think for the last maybe 3 weeks, Penny has, when he's been asked about the injury to Malcolm Dandridge and to Alex Lomax, that they're maybe this week they're coming back. They're right coming. The last 2 days, in answer to those questions, he said that Alo is closer to coming back than Malcolm, and that we'll probably see Alo before we see Malcolm come back. What are y'all's thoughts on this? Like, number one, reintegrating Alex back into the lineup if he comes back quickly, and what happens to the guards that are playing now? Like, where do those minutes get shifted? And just thoughts on this, the Malcolm situation with his ankle.
Clearly, there's a lot more going on with the Malcolm situation than we've been led to believe.
Yeah,
right? That's my first reaction. I mean, we're talking about a high ankle sprain he sustained a while back.
December 13th, 2 months.
Damn.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while now, and we heard that he was going to be on the fast track compared to Alo, and like we had almost given up on the Alo thing, and we didn't think, okay, tournament play, AAC tournament play to NCAA tournament play, maybe he'll be able to be back. But his groin, there's been some issues there. The fact that Malcolm's behind at this point,
and I think they did say that he was practicing and stuff a few weeks ago.
He was doing 5. He could have had a setback.
So yeah, he could have re-injured it. It definitely could be
because he was doing 5-on-5s 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and now he's behind Alo.
With the KO talk and what I had to say about KO, I really think like whatever they need to do to try to get him back on the floor, whatever Malcolm can do. And obviously you don't want to push things that can't be pushed.
Right.
Like if he has some type of ligament damage, don't go play. I get that.
Yeah.
But they need him in a bad way. I'd say even more so than Alex.
Absolutely. I agree.
By a fair amount. And it just needs some front court member that they can trust consistently throughout a game, and I feel like he could provide that. But that's a bummer. That's a huge bummer for two guys, Memphis guys,
been here forever.
6-year guys at this point, right?
Malcolm came the year after
so
Alex.
5-year and a 6-year guy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's brutal, man.
Yeah, that's tough. And I'm with you, man. Malcolm, it kind of hurts you for him because we've seen him have struggles throughout his career and have really good games and then have games where he kind of disappears. And to see the way that he was playing early in the year, because he was playing his best. This was his best season up until the injury.
And most open for him.
Right.
He had so much opportunity.
He didn't have to look over his shoulder
at all.
He kind of knew that he was the 5, and he was the starting 5, and he was going to get the majority of the minutes if they were in a bigger lineup. And he was playing really well for the most part. I know he didn't play much, only until December, like I mentioned, but he was playing really well. He was an important piece to this team. He wasn't an afterthought by any means because he had to be the enforcer, he had to be the rebounder, he had to be the rim protector, and he was really relishing those roles and looked really good. And so for him to go down, we've talked about it as brutal, and for him to still not be back is tough for not only him but the team also.
And his career, it stinks because it really has been like every year there's been a ramp up for him.
Yeah.
And it's just trying to get back on the floor in any way you can and play any role you can. It's a bummer for him in year 5 to have to deal with that. And by no means am I sitting here, and I don't think you'd say this as well, like I'm not saying Malcolm Dandridge is the best big or one of the best bigs in the conference, right? That's not what we're saying. But from a role perspective on this particular team, he would mean a lot.
Yep.
He would mean so much to just being something. You mentioned enforcer, rebounds, what they need from a 5. Those starting minutes they give to KO, Malcolm would be a lot more productive with those minutes.
Yeah.
And that's what we're speaking to. I mean, and I think you could say that with a lot of these guys. Keontae Kennedy's not a guy that you would just hold up to the rest of the conference and say, this is the best guy on our team. Elijah McCadden, all these guys, but they play the roles that they're asked to within Penny's system, and Malcolm is a big example of that. And it's just I'm going to say brutal again. It's brutal.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Well, so what do you do with the guard rotation if and when Alex comes back? Because that's way more tricky. Like we said, the front court's wide open. It would be easy for Malcolm to get minutes if he was playing. But with Alex, I mean, they're getting good guard play. So how do you...
Demaria out?
You would think, because Demaria
because these 9-man rotations have been working for him.
Absolutely.
You don't want to extend it out and give Penny minutes and do all that nonsense you fell into in the past.
It boils down to Jonathan and Demaria, right? That's the only 2 guys, because I'm sorry, I know how good of a player Alex is, but he can't supplement the same kind of offense that Keontae Kennedy can. Keontae Kennedy is so important at that 2 guard that he's not usurping Keontae Kennedy.
No.
So it has to be between Demaria and Jonathan.
He's a bench guy when he comes back, or if he comes back, whatever it is. I mean, if we're going between those two, the only reason I didn't say Jonathan off top is because I think 6'6",
right?
He's
just
longer.
A different,
He's a different type of player, but at the same time, Jonathan kind of plays that. I mean, he's a wing guy.
Yeah, 2-3.
Plays on the wing and defensively doesn't. I guess the one thing I'd say for Demaria to stay in the rotation, older one. 2, I think he's more connected defensively, where Jonathan has had some struggles on that end of the floor this year.
Yeah.
And like switches and all that stuff, being able to communicate. I feel like Jonathan has fallen short this year, and he's a young player, so there's still a lot to build on. But if we're doing it between Demaria and Jonathan, who do you say? I'd probably say Jonathan.
I would say you saying Jonathan loses minutes to Alex?
Who loses minutes?
I would say Demaria.
Okay.
Demaria just has not been effective. And his most effective spot has been defensively. And we know what Alex Lomax can do defensively.
Yeah.
And I mean, I just can visualize like the conference tournament, good guard play, and Alex Lomax is going to play, and he's probably going to play well defensively, and it's going to be necessary.
Okay, and I get Jonathan gets those minutes, and he can shoot a 3 ball, and you feel comfortable at least somewhat, but he has not been shooting well, and he hasn't played, especially in conference play.
Yeah.
The offense has disappeared.
Yeah. But but Demaria's not adding
I know,
any offense either.
I understand. That's a tough decision they're going to have to battle with.
That one could go either way.
If you look at the rotations, though, Jonathan is interchangeable with Keontae right now. That's who.
Yeah.
That's who Jonathan is supplementing for. Like when he substitutes in, it's to give Keontae a breather. So to me, it feels like the only option is Demaria loses minutes.
The
honestly,
little minutes he's been playing.
Right.
I mean,
which is so unfortunate because we had such high hopes for what Demaria would bring.
The question is what happened?
Yeah.
What's happening?
I mean, we know from people inside the facility that during practice, even now, Demaria is killing folks. Like one of the best guards on the team, getting buckets all day long. I don't know. Listen, man, Demaria is a great kid. Love the kid. Love his attitude. His, everything about him on the floor is positive. There's just a lack of production. And I think what you get when you get Alex is they're almost the same players at this point. We knew that Demaria would be a guy that could produce offensively is what we were told. But I think we have track record with Alex in terms of in postseason play, what he can do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I just think when Alex is integrated back into this roster, I just think you take what you know and what Alex can provide and not continue to wait for Demaria.
Yeah. Now, I agree with that, but I do think it's crazy to say. Not crazy to say, but it's crazy to even think about.
Imagine that's where we're at.
Well, to say Alex Lomax is more reliable than Demaria.
Right.
Right? Like that's something I didn't expect to have to say at this point in the season.
Yeah.
Because Alex Lomax has had some that's one guy who I think's great. The effort he gives on the defensive end, you can always trust that. But sometimes offensively in his career, he's been very unreliable with turnovers and everything else. Like that's wild when you really put it into that.
Especially when we thought Demaria was right behind.
We thought he was third scorer.
Right behind DeAndre and KD in the pecking order, and it just had.
It's a shame for him too, because he was averaging 18 points a game at the old place,
and we thought he was going to be a 12 to 13 point per game guy, and it just for whatever reason hasn't panned out that way.